Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the program this evening. I am Nifemi Oguntoye, and we're following very closely developments at the National Assembly. Tonight, we begin with a test, not technology, but of trust. Nigeria's Senate has just held an emergency plenary after intense public backlash over amendments to the Electoral Act. At the center of that controversy was one question: how votes are transmitted, verified, and ultimately trusted in a country where elections often decide not just winners, but legitimacy. The Senate has now upheld Section 30, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act, affirming electronic transmission of polling unit results to INEC's IREF portal, while retaining Form EC8A as a fallback where technology fails. Lawmakers insist this strikes a balance between innovation and realism. Critics, however, argue that it's leaving too much discretion in the system and too much room for dispute. The decision mattered because it followed public pressure, proof that electoral credibility remains one of the most sensitive fault lines in our democracy. It also mattered because it comes as political alignments ahead of 2027 are already taking shape. Against that backdrop, governors were in Abuja for the National Economic Council Conference, where we heard President Tinubu address issues of security, terrorism, banditry, and the economy, and federal-state coordination issues that sit squarely on the desks of state chief executives. Our guest tonight sits at the intersection of all of this. Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State is appearing on this program for the fourth time. He's a two-term governor, a former corporate executive, member of the NEC, and a key stakeholder in the governing APC at the time of mass defections and heightened political calculation. Governor Sule, welcome back to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again.
Well, let's begin where the country is most uneasy, and it's about the credibility of our elections. You sit at the intersection of governance and politics, which of course include issues of election. What's your reading of this call for real-time transmission of results?
Well, thank you very much. You see, the whole idea about real-time, or the e-transmission as they call it, is about credibility of elections, because Nigeria is a country where nobody loses election. If anybody loses, it's because they have rigged him. That's generally the impression. You know, if somebody enters into election and they lose, okay, so there has been rigging. That's the only way. But that is also not to say it's unfounded, because in the past, we have had a lot of situations where elections were rigged. But if you really look at the elections of 2023, where the winner only escaped with about 8 million votes, and then the other two actually were somewhere around, you know, the two of them got almost at 30 million votes, then you will know that definitely there has been some level of credibility in that election. But because of what had happened in the past, that's why people are worried. And when you talk about, you know, credibility of an election, the biggest, you know, beneficiary of credibility of that, the moment it is said, especially internationally, it will be the country. Because once they say that there has been credible election in Nigeria, then Nigerians all around the world, you know, are going to take credit for it, that at least, you know, we are changing from the past. And if there is anybody who should want that, it is Mr. President himself. You know, the president would like to say that Nigeria looks good, the image of Nigeria is excellent, Nigerians are being commended, just like the Nigerian Naira now is being commended, you know, so things like that. But I think there is a total misunderstanding of any time we see something working in another country, we believe it will work here. It is not necessarily the case. You know, you may have something that works perfectly in Ghana, perfectly in Algeria, perfectly in Morocco, and then forget even about the advanced nations. It may not work in Nigeria until you put all the structures and the basis that such a thing will work in Nigeria. And I think that is where the question is. So it is not a bad thing to have e-transmission. In fact, it is a wonderful thing to have e-transmission, you know, but we must take the steps to ensure that the e-transmission also works for Nigeria, not just to have something and then at the end of the day, because if you look at it, you know, we have so many other interventions that have taken place. At the end of the day, you know, there are still questions. So if we go in transmission now and the first thing it doesn't work, then you will hear that, because Nigerians are very, very, very intelligent people. And you have heard about hacking, and probably that's one of the concerns that people are having, because the moment you hack the line, you have heard about the American elections, where they have the e-transmission, everything, and then after some times, they say that Russia actually hacked into the line and did one or two things. So I think those are the kind of fears people have. But e-transmission is wonderful, is what is needed. Nigeria wants it. I think the president wants it. Nearly every governor also, in fact, every governor wants it, because that's the thing that will give Nigeria a very good image.